Hi, everyone. Welcome to Goose Digital's Fireside Chats insurance segment. We hold these every month or so to bring together people, industry leaders, to talk about the latest in digital marketing, tech, AI, and anything related to helping the broker and carrier channels succeed in today's online world. Today, we're especially interested to talk to Dan and Lane from directworx. I'll let Dan and Lane do their own intro, but I'm Jen Pugsley from Goose Digital. And with Goose on my other side today, we have
Michael Turksani, founder of Goose Digital.
Okay, directworx.
Dan Schottlander, president of directworx.
And Lane Gove, director of product and business development at directworx.
Awesome. So, Lane, I know you're going to do a kind of high-level overview of directworx, but I'll just kind of intro. directworx is a direct mail marketing service company for Canadian and U.S. businesses. You guys have been in business for over 22 years. I think we've all known each other for 5 years, I think, at this point. You guys are clients and obviously friends as well. So we spent a whole week together last week. So there's a few areas that I want to get, or hoping we can cover today. Definitely your programmatic direct mail solution, that's unique. I know you work with some of the big national insurance providers, so talk about, what you do for them in this solution. You also have an exclusive Canada Post integration, so I want to kind of highlight that if we can and talk about that. I'm not sure if we'll get into your Grataflow tool today, but we can always come back to a part 2. And then just generally we'll integrate how, we all believe that physical and digital married together is really a game changer in how insurance providers can target. So we'll get into all that with these use cases. Okay, so I'm going to pass it over to Lane. You're going to give us a high-level overview of programmatic. It took me a while to actually say that word.
Thanks, Jen. So with programmatic direct mail, we identified, I think like every marketer, you want to reach customers and prospects with relevant marketing messages when and where they're most likely to make a purchase decision. So with programmatic direct mail, what we're able to do is leverage the availability of data now and take that real-time data and push it into a relevant marketing message so that it's highly personalized in the right place at the perfect time in their journey. So what we're able to do is go out and look at various data sources, whether that is weather data triggers, whether it's CRM, whether it's looking at geolocation and looking at different points of interest. Really, whatever you can think of and whatever data is available within your own systems or through third party, we can leverage and tie into in an automated fashion to grab that data and absorb it into our system and then trigger some sort of marketing automation. That marketing automation could be a direct mail postcard, a letter, it could be an email that we send out, a lot of different choices as far as the marketing channel is concerned.
And maybe talk through, I know you have a couple use cases for specifically the insurance audience, a direct play. I know, we're not mentioning names today, but maybe you can talk through one of those recent projects and the success of it.
Yeah, for sure. So what we're able to do with an insurance company, they were looking to find a new way of targeting automotive insurance clients. So what we did here in Ontario, in Canada, is we went out and ran geolocation around every automotive dealership here in Canada. And what we're able to do when we do that is we watch the mobile device. So as an iPad, iPhone, Android, etc., crosses that invisible perimeter, that geolocation, onto the dealership property, you're able to capture the MAC ID of the device. Now, from there, here in Canada, you're not actually able to know the household of that individual, but we are able to get is the postal code. And a postal code here in Ontario is about 20 different houses. So we know that a person or multiple people cross that invisible perimeter onto the automotive dealership and went to that location. So they know either they're a current automotive client or in their market for a new vehicle. And with that data, we're also able to get the brand flag. So we know if it's a Honda, a Ford, a GM, etc. So after we've gotten that postal code, it takes about 12 hours to identify the postal code of where that individual lives. That postal code is absorbed into our system. So then based on automated business rules, we can go in and trigger some action. So we can take that postal code and we can target every single household in that postal code. We can look at things for filtering like geography. Maybe we don't want to target people that have visited an automotive dealer that are outside your primary marketing area. We can filter things out like your existing policy holders, areas that are high in fraud, non-competitive markets for your insurance product. So there's a wide range of filtering that we can go through as part of that. And then the end result is a lot smaller subset of that initial universe of people that you could have mailed to or gone out with a direct mail piece to. So you're really highlighting the very best of those people that responded. And demographics too. We can load in demographics according to postal codes and suppress if you're looking for a very specific demographic. So once all that filtering is done within our system, it's all automated. It triggers a direct mail piece out to our production facility, and our team here prints it. Now that piece, based on what we know in the data, as I mentioned earlier, knowing that it's Honda or Ford or GM, if we're looking to target, truck owners, for example, we know that, Honda, although they have a truck, it's not your traditional, pickup truck, right? It's the user of that's not focused on, potentially four-wheel drive and pulling things and horsepower and all that sort of thing. So we can now tailor that message for that insurance product to speak differently to that segment versus the message that we would go out to for a Honda owner. So even though when that data comes in, every single piece in theory that goes out can be completely different. The message can be different. The creative can change. The offer can change. It can be fully dynamic on a one-to-one level.
So it's like
A form of physical retargeting,
Mhm.
but highly customized, right?
And
So
you have or sorry, you also have household income data, correct? Like, do you have average demographic data that in the you do, right?
Yeah, so there's different data that you could mention, like the demographic data you can overlay. So again, at the postal code level, or at the very least the FSA level, we
Hmm.
can go in and overlay income, age. Um, when you get into like home insurance, for example, if we were looking at auto, you could look at age of home, property type, whether it's detached, semi-detached, family structure. There's a wide range of demographic information that we can overlay to help with that filtering process.
I was just going to ask how, for people that are kind of less aware of um, kind of traditional direct mail, or, this is a more innovative direct mail kind of solution. What would be the big differences here that they would see?
I think the biggest thing here is where it used to be kind of a spray and pray kind of approach. Now it's highly, highly targeted.
Hmm.
We're not setting up a separate campaign and running multiple versions of a campaign. What we're doing is setting up one campaign at the beginning with all the business rules in place, all the filtering and targeting in place, all the automations in place, artwork, creative offers. Everything is predetermined based on the ideal targeting
Hmm.
parameters, right? And so once that's set up, the automation, I think, is one of the major differentiations from the way that direct mail used to be done. You can set it all up, you can do all the personalization, but once it's going, it just continually drips through. So daily feeds, pulling in various copy, pulling in various creatives and offers, and basically You press a green button, it runs until you hit the red button, and it's a daily. And so with all that, you can do all of the other great things in terms of tracking. You can use URL, PURLs. You can use QR codes, drive to landing pages, drive to 800 numbers, all of the rest of the kind of the usual marketing stuff. But I think that's one of the biggest things is the highly finite targeting
Mhm.
in an automated basis. And I think the other advantage here with this, or we've found, is that geo-targeting is one of many different ways that we can provide targets or
Hmm.
provide, or geocaching, I guess is the better, or, yeah, I guess geofencing is the word I'm looking for. Sorry. So yeah, geofencing is one of the many ways we can integrate with data. So we can also do a combination of geofencing with weather data, or
Mhm.
geofencing with CRM data, or geofencing with abandoned carts. So you can and you can do just abandoned shopping carts, and you can do you can do all kinds of. There's just so many different permutations, and the beauty of this platform is it enables us to really go around and pick and choose the best fit for the ideal prospect.
Yeah. I like as you were just kind of riffing those off. I mean, obviously, there's a ton of different insurance use cases that come to my mind. Particularly, and on digital marketing perspective, we can get really targeted as well, but there are things down to the postal code level, particularly overlaying things like average incomes of a specific area, for example, that would be great, just that extra level of targeting down to that actual address level, I guess, is what is different here. But I think what gets me really excited in terms of, I don't know what the right word is. I hate the word hyper targeting, but ultra targeting, I don't know, is that this is really where the industry is going in terms of profitability, right? So when you talk about overlaying things like weather data or the level of policy data that is held within a BMS, that is going to allow somebody to get really targeted. For example, if you want to run a referral campaign, home and auto was just sold in this house, right? And you want to target everyone else in that location, but maybe it's your suppression lists that are, the differentiator in terms of
Exactly.
we want to
Yeah.
remove these people or what have you.
Right,
So
sure. Existing customers, for example, could be
yeah,
could be suppressed.
yeah.
Obviously, non-ideal primary outside of your primary marketing area, you can suppress. You can suppress non-ideal postal codes based on whether you want to write business in that area or not. So yeah, and then on top of that, layer on again the demographic aspect as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is really, coming off of the Broker Marketing Academy last week and just like, being in the space for a long time, like you guys have for brokers in particular, they they often will complain about the cost of certain types of marketing, not so much that the cost is high, it's that they can't get as granular on how they're attracting their audience, right? So you'll get back, let's say 100 leads, let's say, and just by the nature of the fact that there's going to be a whole mix of people coming through that process that they may or may not be able to write or address, and they really want, even on the digital side, you can only be, there's limits to sort of some of the demand creation stuff, and I think certainly around email programs, this is sort of very similar, that real granularity that you can get around an email program. Now you're able to get in this physical world. And I think that for this is kind of like a big missing key for them. It's like I would feel like they would be very hesitant to go out with, a much broader campaign on physical because they know they're going to get a whole bunch of stuff that they can't write. Whereas now we're saying to them, well, no, you can be much more targeted and leverage your data to go after the business that you want.
I'm glad you referenced the physical aspect too, because I think that's something that gets lost in the mix here is that we've become such a digital society, and the marketing has become so digital. We forget that we're actually tactile humans, that we like to touch and feel, and we retain when we have almost like having multiple channels of input to our own neuroscience, to the neurotransmitters of our own body. The same thing happens when you have a physical piece. You're not just reading it and engaging your brain that way, but you're engaging your hands as well, and it leaves a
Hmm.
much longer. And it sits on the kitchen counter,
Hmm.
or if you send out like a fridge magnet, it can sit on that fridge for weeks and weeks, or months and years. We actually have stories of customers who've received something in the mail, put it up on their fridge, and the person that sent it says, I hear from them 10 years later. It's been sitting on their
Yeah.
fridge, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, I think again, it's just the combining the physicality with the targeting, um, and the retargeting. I think
Well,
that's where the magic happens.
the
Yeah.
magic, it's magic because, and again, where we hear a lot from brokers, and I work really hard on the digital side to make sure this is aligned with the carrier partners. So that has been a big trend in the last, I'd say, 24 months, where as a broker, you don't want to you don't want to drive a bunch of new business that your carrier doesn't want to write. Like it's a big deal, right? So you're all
Hmm.
this money. See it a lot on the commercial side of the house, and so this whole broker carrier alignment to go and grow business, physical, with digital mail or digital physical mail, like it's all going to be combined, right? For the biggest win. And I think the only way to really do that is to get really targeted.
Yeah. And to kind of loop back to what Michael was just saying last week, kind of what we were hearing from some of the brokers we were talking to is that there was this common misconception that direct mail in particular was just this bulk distribution. A lot of them had no idea that you really could get this personalized and this targeted. And with our platform, with the programmatic platform, what you're able to do as well is set budgets. So again, this isn't our traditional direct mail campaign where you're going and sending, tens of thousands of pieces and blanketing an area. This is a trickle. So every day we know that people have taken some sort of action, a flag's come in from a CRM, geolocation, etc., different data point, and we're absorbing that data. Now, there could be 10,000 households that we could target. However, with the filtering, we're able to narrow that down maybe to say 2,000 of our best recipients. But then out of that 2,000, maybe you only have a budget to support 500 pieces a day or 500
Mm.
pieces a week. So
Yeah.
what we're able to do then is go in and do some further suppression. Maybe we're looking at, for example, we talked about the example of Honda, Ford, and GM. Maybe we're saying for this application, we only want to pull the Honda records into the mix if we've exhausted our Ford and GM records. Otherwise, they would be removed. So, and then even still, if that wasn't enough, we can then do a random filtering to hit exactly those 500 pieces every single day to align with your budget. So it's a lot different than it was, even 3 or 4 years ago. You can get laser focused, it's trickle, and it's specific to a budget.
And then think of what that can do, marrying your data set with our digital marketing, use cases and platforms, and what that actually can do. I mean, do you guys think you're a data company? I feel like you're a data company versus a
Yeah,
direct mail company.
it's like we woke up one day and went, "Hey, we're a data company."
Hmm.
Why? Because Jennifer said we are.
Hmm.
No, we definitely data has been at the core of our DNA forever. We actually started out doing this kind of automation in a whole other aspect of the mailing industry, and that was in the bill distribution side. So, in order to run billing distributions for large telecoms and electric companies, et cetera, you have to set up automations. The data has to come in. There has to be a flow. Has to be some pre-programming that occurs
Hmm.
to manage the data and massage it before it actually becomes a physical or e-bill or email. And one day we just realized that, hey, this would be a really good thing to use for direct marketing, because we're already integrating a lot of marketing intelligence into our billing side, right? So onto the actual bill document, we're using a lot of the same kind of targeting rules. What do we know about the customer? What do we know about what they're doing in this particular month? Say for a telecom customer, what did they subscribe to? What didn't they? All of those aspects can be used to pull in from a cache of messages or promotions that is customized to exactly what the activity is. And so this is a very, this is a very similar kind of repurposing of that platform, perhaps even more open from the perspective of where it can receive data from, and perhaps more capable of this granular targeting, where we can layer on multiple parameters based on, like we said, location, demographics, weather, whatever you want, relating back to budget, relating back to capacity to manage the leads. There's so many different aspects to it. But one thing I did want to touch on is the other thing that's great about this particular product now, and might differentiate it, is we all as marketers love to test, trust, control, test, A/B testing, all that. With the programmatic, makes it a snap, because we can manage all of that at the front end automatically, in terms of breaking it out into perhaps various messages and combinations of messages, combinations of offers and creative, and run them right within on a daily basis. So you're not doing like an A test one day and a B test a week later. It's right in the middle, ingrained right in there.
Cool.
So you can refine,
And,
right?
and to touch a little bit further on that, Dan, is it doesn't even have to necessarily be just within direct mail. It can be across different channels. So I know, Jen, we were talking about an application there a little while ago where it would be, for example, out of the CRM, right? You have a new insurance policyholder you've just signed on to. So you could potentially go out with an email to that new policyholder and say, thank you for your business. Please refer us. Now, in parallel to that, we could utilize the postal code of that new insurance policyholder and look at the neighbors. So now what we could do on the direct mail side of things is we've asked the new policyholder to refer. We've sent them a thank you via email. Now the neighbors that we're targeting via direct mail, we're saying, here we are, and target them with a direct mail offer or a brand awareness piece, while we suppress the existing policyholder. So the new policyholder would not receive the piece, all the neighbors would, and then we're asking the new policyholder to give the referral.
Yeah, classic case of just targeting your message, right?
Yeah. And we would actually pair that not just with the digital, not just with the email flow, but also retargeting, other types of social media, retargeting in their lookalike contests or lookalike ads. And so there's a lot more multi-channel that can be done where you're showing up wherever they are. One of the things though that you said that I think was interesting is in terms of your A/B test, like how long does it take? Like at what point do you look at that reporting in terms of like, how does a campaign flow look in terms of reporting for you guys? Are you looking at it on a 30-day basis or 60 days or what does that look like?
Yeah, generally I believe we're going with about a 3-month minimum that you're going to run the campaign. You're going to want to run that long enough to capture the life cycle of the sales cycle of whatever that product or service is that you're selling. So in the case of insurance, the longer the better, because not everybody's ready to renew at that moment. There's some dying decisions. There's a high trust factor. And of course it also gives you time for other channels to influence the buying process as well. So I mean, with insurance, I'd say you want to run that for 3 months and then sit back and take a look at where now, not to say that we can't give you reporting on a weekly basis, right? So you can do all kinds of reporting and look at it, but to really understand it, I think what the process has done for you and what the campaign has done for you, it does take at least a month, but up to 3 months.
I want to dive.
Does that answer your question? I wasn't sure if that was.
It totally does. It totally does. I want to dive a little bit more into being able to overlay. Well, we call it, the insurance world calls it a BMS instead of a CRM, but if we just think about it as a CRM for a sec. So in order to, like, if a broker wanted to overlay their BMS data, let's say, for targeting, like, are you able to, like, let's say a cross sell upsell for auto and home, right? Are you what like, I guess you can layer their system. Like, how does that whole thing work where you're laying their data file into programmatic, and over even overlaying Canada Post data? So if it was like, I want to pull everybody that has auto that doesn't have home, condo, or tenant, but we want to personalize that for just an area with condos. Right now, like, it'd be very difficult to get that data. We run that campaign today, but it's kind of using messaging like it's applicable, cross-sell, bundling packages is applicable for condo, tenant, and home, right? But with this, you could actually say, we want all our auto customers in downtown Burlington, where we know is condo central. So that digital piece, physical piece could feel really condo-like, which is a totally different product. Are you able, I mean, I guess you can get down to that address level.
Yeah, and there are a few different options. I know Canada Post has a number of different products, so I'd want to see the data coming out of it. But I mean, really, if you're targeting from an acquisition standpoint, like when you're exporting data out of the CRM, is that existing customers you're looking to target, or is it net new customers? What would the target be?
Could be both. But it would be two separate campaigns. But
Right.
let's just go with the use case of an existing customer.
Okay, yeah. So for example, if you're able to export that data, whether it's auto, home, that you want to push to home and auto, we can take that. And again, we would know based on the export out of the CRM, you'd have to identify to us that, okay, this export file is for auto clients that we're looking to upsell to home and auto. And then again, we would look at that flag, whatever it is, whether it's just a specific data file that we watch a folder for, whether there's actually a brand flag or a segment flag in the data. We can then pick that up, pull it into our automation, and then we target those people differently. Like we pull the creative in and we can mail that offer out to them. Now, if it was for acquisition, there's a couple different options we can look at. The most simple one, if you're looking, for example, to target people around that neighborhood, and it was generic, you just wanted to target everyone, you can use a product called Neighborhood Mail with Canada Post where we target an entire street. And there's actually a flag in there that lets us to toggle between houses, apartments, farms, and businesses. So you could go in and say, okay, in this area in Burlington, for example, here's all the clients we have. We want to hit all the streets around them, but we only want to target apartments. We only want to target businesses. We only want to target farms or homes, and turn those flags on and off and target it that way. And it doesn't have to necessarily be at the household level if there was an application to hit the whole street, but you could go down to the postal code level as well on that.
And I know.
I just wanted to.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to raise another point that came up a little earlier, and it ties a little bit into this. But I'd like maybe your thoughts on this, guys, in terms of frequency of offer, or thinking about the drip series that we would have in email, right? Like once you've taken said actions, we've now branched and we drip you over a period of time to recognize that you have made that path change and now you're over here, and that we're not just sending you one email. Okay, now that you've gone ahead and you've maybe made it to this place on our website or in our product offering, we're not just sending you one, we're probably sending you 3 or 4 over the course of like 5 weeks or something like that, just to until it runs out. Or if you've engaged through our CRM, that turns the cycle off, right? And you're no longer getting those messages because we've made the connect. So maybe you could talk a little bit about, because you were talking about 500 pieces a day, and I think a lot of times people think about one and done. They think, oh, they got that one piece of that physical offer, whatever it was, and that's it. They're not getting anything else from us. And I think with this solution, it gives a much more, it's already more personalized. So what I'm receiving, I'm probably much more happy to receive. And then on top of that, we know as marketers that we're probably going to need to have more than one touch point here. So Have you seen any of that? Do you recommend, kind of almost like a physical drip series to continue to stay top of mind? Laying her
Yeah,
down,
I
whoever
would
wants
say,
to take
yeah,
it.
sorry, I was muted there. Yeah, no, I mean, it's like any marketing, right? It's not really any different. I'm glad you brought that up because the idea that it's a one and done is just it just tells me if somebody ever does that, they're just not getting great advice. They're not they're not thinking this through. How many times do you hear a radio spot? How many times do you see a television? If anybody was watching the game last night, really they had 5 ads they played over and over and over again.
Hmm.
Repetition is absolutely key, and so where I think that sometimes direct mail can get a bit of reputation for being expensive is that the ability to do that over and over again can be costly. Like it's an investment, right? It's a high value investment, but sometimes the budget gods just don't allow that kind of investment, right? So being that we can go in smaller batches, you can do that repetition. And again, that's when we come back to we want to run these things for 3 months, right?
Hmm.
And in that, not only can you hit fresh, but you can look at some of those most the cream of the crop, the most um, ideal targets, and perhaps weave them in 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, and then hit them again maybe 2 or 3 weeks later with the same piece. Because it's not like you're hitting 100,000 points of call in one shot, right?
Right.
And then you can test that, right? And so we can see how that rhythmic approach, to steal a phrase that I heard at BMA,
Mm.
that rhythmic approach can basically supercharge your response rates. But it does take that. Yeah, I totally. I wish we could see more of that happening. But the really good classic direct mail marketers, they all know about rhythm. They all know about keep going
Mhm.
back, go back specifically, perhaps alter the message slightly, but track through the
Yeah.
whole thing and make sure you can measure.
So I think that's like another really good point that I wanted to bring up. That especially for brokers, like, and it's not exclusive to brokers, but I think brokers are, these environments are so labor intensive. Yeah, they've got technology, but the market, especially in Canada, it's very, there's a lot of double entry. There's like, as much as your ambition might be to do certain types of digital activities, there are limits because of the industry and kind of where it's at right now in terms of connectivity and these various elements, right? So I think, and then on top of that, you layer in the fact that like these aren't, you know, big organizations. Typically, there are some very large brokers, but they don't have like 12 or 15 people in marketing. And we've got a dedicated individual that's focused on our audience, or our dedicated individual that's focused on research, or a dedicated person that knows direct mail. Most organizations also have this challenge. Brokers kind of have it, that plus it's their environment. So I think what's important maybe to talk a little bit about is how, when you think of this best practices that you're bringing up right now, and or just getting getting an overall program, let's not call it a campaign, off the ground, how is directworx as a white glove service able to really shepherd that customer in, and help them through that process, so they're not sitting there being like, I have no idea how to put this together, I've never done it before, and how would I even get something like this off the ground?
Yeah, I mean, the important thing to understand is we've done this before, and we do have some creative individuals here, and we have a lot of tools at our disposal. And so it's a matter of figuring out exactly what it is you would want from any campaign. Like the
Mm.
questions are the same as anywhere else. The ability for us to easily integrate with other systems, and the confidence that we've been able to do this before, and we know what we need to get to garner the kind of targeting we're looking for. And I guess I'm not sure if that answers your question, but uh, you know, again, it's not that direct mail is so much more complex. It's not that it's onerous necessarily to put it together. It's that if you don't know it's really what you don't know, right? It's
Yeah.
not knowing what you don't know is the worst part of it. And
Yeah.
so we'll work very closely with our customers to find, okay, talk to us about your ideal persona. Where do they live in your database, in your data? Where are they surfacing in the buying, in your own marketing and in your buying cycle right now? What have you learned that's worked? And then let's talk about some of these other tools that we've got that we could help to give that the rocket fuel that it needs to become an even more powerful medium for reaching out and connecting with those individuals.
Awesome. Okay, well, we're about at time, so thank you for that's a good segue to wrap up. I want to come back for a part 2 to discuss Grataflow and how that can be used for loyalty rewards in this industry. It's really, I think there's a lot there. But thank you all or thank you Lane and Dan for coming. I think it's exciting. The targeting is very exciting, both for the personal lines, but also the commercial side of the house, which we're seeing a lot of movement in. So thank you. We'll come back.
Thank you for having
Thanks for
us.
having us,
No,
Jen.
our pleasure.
Thanks, Jen.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jen.